Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Avatar Fire Nation Rising from the Up. And this is a game that is based on the Rising series, which I believe the first one was actually Thanos Rising, and there's also a Star Wars and a Harry Potter, etc., etc. Now, what this is this is a crisis management style game. And what I mean by that is you're running around kind of putting out a lot of fires all over the place while you slowly try to achieve whatever your objective is. And in this particular one, you are trying to win these 3 different wars that are eventually going to happen around the world before the Fire Nation, personified here, is able to kill too many heroes, basically. And you're going to do that through a series of tableau building and dice chucking. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played and just want to jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go ahead to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's go over how this game is played. Now, the first thing to know is you're actually going to kind of pick your difficulty at the beginning of the game. And that's actually going to be based off of these cards here that kind of go next to each other. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to just put them on either side of the board. And at any point, if either one of these 2 tokens ever reaches the top, we are going to enter the end game. And in that end game, these 3 wars here, or battles, will come out onto the board. And if you are able to accomplish all 3 of them, you will win the game. Now, this side here represents the ruin that's happening. This side over here represents balance. And to go up the different balance tracks, you're going to have to kind of pay whatever's on there, and you can go up those. And the ruin track's going to be determined by when the Fire Nation kind of shifts its focus to one of the other kingdoms, be it the water, the earth, or the air kingdom. And that's actually going to be controlled by these cards right here. Now, at the beginning of the game, each player is going to pick a team, and that team will come with a character from the show that is kind of the leader of it and the main heroes that we know. So in this case, I have Aang and Toph, and they are actually represented by these tokens here, Toph and Aang, and each one also comes with a card that represents them, and it'll have how much damage they can take, what it takes to recruit them if you don't already have them, and whatever their ability is. And as you're going through the game, you'll be getting more and more heroes into your team, and that will give you more and more powers that you can activate. The first thing that's going to happen is a player will decide which region they're going to go deal with, and each region has 3 cards set out at it. Most of the cards are going to be heroes that you can recruit, though there will be, as you can see here and here, villains that come out also, and those are going to hurt you, and you just need to defeat them. And as I said, the loss condition is 10 of your heroes, period, get knocked out, or all the heroes that one character controls are knocked out. So the first thing you'll do is you decide where you're going to go. We'll say Aang is going to go right there. Then you will draw one of the Fire Nation cards here, and it's going to tell you how far to move. In this case, he doesn't move at all. He just attacks right here. And so what would happen is each one of the heroes here would take 1 damage, and the bad guy would activate their ability, which in this case is 1 damage to the 2 rightmost heroes on each team. So that would be the rightmost play that each player has, or at the beginning of the game, just your starting character. Now, it's also possible that you have a card that will raise the ruin, or perhaps you have a card that will cause them to rotate. In this case, counterclockwise to here. Now, if you did that, each of these would take damage, as well as my entire team because I'm here. Then what would happen is I would look at my cards and see what color dice I have. In this case, as Aang, I have 1 of each color. And so what I will do is I would then go ahead and roll those. And after I do a roll, I have to choose to use at least 1 die or discard a die. And what I'm looking at are these things right here to try to recruit. Or perhaps I want to hurt something. So here I can use 1 air and 1 water. And then we'll say I'm going to go ahead and re-roll these. And then I'll take this to Earth and I'll put that over there. And then I will roll one more time. And just for kicks, we will pretend that I rolled this to Fire ability, and I'll put that there. And so what's happened here is, because I did this over here, I would have done 1 damage to this. This I didn't complete, so nothing happens. I would take that back. And this one I would have managed to recruit Hockey to my tableau. And so I would take it, I would put it in my tableau, and I would put it to the right or to the left of Aang. And Aang has an ability where he gets additional dice based on who's next to him. So if I put him to the left, I would then have the option of getting additional fire die every time his team were to activate. And then I would draw another card, which in this case is another villain. I would take this back. Then Toph's team would then pick where it's going to go. We'll just pretend I say that they're going to go right here also. I would pull this. Ruin would go up by 1. Everybody here would take a damage. This entire team would take a damage. And this ability and this ability would activate. And as I said, you're going to do that until eventually one of these tracks gets to the top. And depending on which one gets there first, will determine who gets damaged. And the damage is going to come by if the Ruin reaches the top first. Any of the hero cards that have this moon symbol on it would immediately be defeated and discarded. But if you get to the top of the balance side, any of the villain cards that have this moon on there would be immediately defeated and you would replace with another card. And that's pretty much it. That's how this game works. So what do I like about this game? First, I like the theme. I've never played any of the Rising games because I just didn't care. I love Marvel movies, but I don't want to play Thanos Rising. I don't particularly care about Batman very much. That's my brother's bag. Don't care. Harry Potter, yeah, fine. I think there's one more that I don't know, I'm not thinking of. Star Wars, which I like Star Wars again, but there's so many Star Wars games. But Avatar games, that's interesting to me. And also, I feel like it works. Because if you know the show, you spend so much time going to the different countries, the different nations to do things. Though it only has 3 of them here, it doesn't have the 4th, but the idea is there. And so I like that. I loved seeing the characters on the cards. Oh my gosh, I remember this character because I haven't watched the show in a little bit. And I just really, really enjoyed that. Next thing I'll say is the production on this is pretty good for an inexpensive game. That huge Ozai mini in the middle is pretty cool. The dice are great. I mean, the dice are great. I love those dice. They're fantastic. And the cardboard chits are really nice and chunky, and I think all of that works really well. Next thing I'll say is, this is a crisis management game that is entry level. And I'm putting that as something that I like about the game, because there's not a ton of those out there that I would really say, yeah, I'd definitely play that. Castle Panic, I'd absolutely play that. That's a fun game. I wish I need to play that again. And that's kind of the end of the entry-level crisis management games that are very easy to teach, very easy to understand, but have a little bit of meat to the bones, which this one does because of the tableau building, which I also like. I really do like the way you're building up all these heroes, this tableau, and you're then managing their resources, being their health, so you don't lose them throughout the game. I think that does work particularly well, and I do like that, but it's very easy to understand, so I think that works particularly well. And then as I've already alluded to, I do like the core mechanic of the Yahtzee style dice chucking. I like that you always have to make that choice of you're going to put one of them out each time. And so then you get a little bit of push your luck in there because you're like, ooh, I could put 1 on this hero, which I could recruit, but I got to get in the next 3 rolls 2 dice that I exactly need. And I think that works pretty well. It's very interesting. It's exciting. It gives some tension every time you play. Along with it, the way the balance track works is now you're making that decision. Do I want to try to recruit somebody? Do I want to try to hurt a villain? Or do I want to go up this track? Because if I get to the top of this track first, that's going to be a huge benefit for me down the road. I think all of that works really well. I think the way Ozai works and turns and hits you and hurts everybody, I think that works really well, just in the way that you don't know exactly what's going to happen. And it's constantly like, frustrating when you play, when I think that's a very good sign for a crisis management game, because you want to feel that tension, and you do in this particular game. So what are my quibbles with the game? The first one is, as I already mentioned, it's very simple. This is a very simple, light crisis management game. There's not a lot of meat on the bones here, And that I think is as intended, but just something that you should understand. Also, as near as I can tell from what I've researched, it's not really different from the other Rising games. Getting a different Rising game, basically it's like, okay, what theme am I interested in? I'm sure there are minor differences, but they're pretty much the same game as you're going through. So if you already have Thanos Rising, do you need Avatar Rising? Probably not, unless you really like Avatar. But if you have none of those games, then you want to check out, okay, these different themes that we have here. Avatar, that's what I'm down with. That's what I'm going to get. The next thing that I'm going to say is, when you are recruiting heroes, they're just not all equal, I don't think. There are a couple that I think are just always go for them. If there's one that gives you an extra die, always go for that. If it's one that's going to let you do re-rolls the dice you don't use, always go for that. But those two, and there's probably one more I'm not thinking of, are just, in my mind, significantly better than the others. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I say this a lot in my videos. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but there are people that are like, no, I want to feel like these are all balanced, so I can kind of make choices based on the characters and the team I'm building. Sometimes you're like, no, more dice equals better. And that's just something to understand about the game. And then the last thing I'm going to say is, and this is to me the most significant, is that the end game, when you're doing those 3 last battles, there's 3 spaces, there's 3 cards. That's it. So you play twice, and you know what the reward is. You know how to do it. And to me, I think that's a little bit of a miss. I wish there was 6, 9. And it could even be the same named cards. Just have 3 of each, the same name, because that kind of tracks with the story. And just change what you need to do a little bit and change the reward on the back. So you just don't quite know what's going to happen. Or even keep it exactly the same on the front and just change the reward on the back so there's a little bit of variety. And I think it's a little bit of a miss there. But there you have it, folks. That is Avatar Fire Nation Rising. As always, if I made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with a timestamp so I can get that into the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe join. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.